All right, guys. Welcome to another episode of 5 Minutes Mike. Thank you for choosing to select this video and to join me today on this journey called life, right? So I thank each and every one of you for spending the time to watch this video. I pray over your life. I speak blessings and favor for you guys. Also, for that matter, please watch the video all the way through. I know, you don't even have to necessarily look at it. You can have it playing in the background. It definitely helps when it comes down to the algorithm in regards to when you watch the video all the way through. So please do watch the video all the way through. I must say, as I've recently been back on the podcasting realm, you can call it, of 5 Minutes with Mike. I am obviously the creator and founder of 5 Minutes with Mike. I feel a new freedom when it comes down to recording these episodes. Part of that freedom is I'm not bound by a script, from years past when I were recording episodes. And I'm just freely talking like any other podcaster for the most part. Do I have some notes? Do I have, of course, a matter of the subject of the day? Absolutely. But there's some freedom that I feel in this particular time around with doing these episodes. And I hope you guys enjoy the experience. In today's episode, we're going to talk about Commander Trump rages against democratic cities, the homeless, van lifers, and RV'ers. Yep, all this is all happening, along with all the other junk he got going on. But anyway, I'll see you guys on the other side.
This is 5 Minutes with Mike, our news, our voice, and our opinion. With your host, Michael Beckford. Now stop, listen, and pay attention for 5 Minutes with Mike.
So President Donald J. Trump, which he is for all intents and purposes the commander-in-chief, right? So for this episode, I'm calling him Commander Trump because, there's individuals, like if you watch the channel, The Amazing Lucas and other channels out there on YouTube world, there's been individuals that's been like blazingly saying, hey, we're going into a factor of authoritarianism. Like the lights have been blinking. Hey, alert, get ready, alert. And a lot of people like, you know what? This is the United States. This will never happen here. This United States, this will never in a million years happen. But unfortunately for a lot of these folks, they don't understand how authoritarianism starts. And actually, we had the playbook. It was called Project 2025. A lot of people are like, no. And Donald Trump denied himself, of course. He's also the liar in chief, by the way. This man breathes and lies at the same time. But let the facts remain. The alarm bells were ringing when it came down to exactly the playbook for which Donald Trump and his minions, I swear Stephen Miller really looks like he really looks like one of those dark characters. But that's neither here nor there. Right now, what I'm talking about is the alarm bells are ringing. And I've already discussed in a recent episode in regards to Commander Trump unleashing the National Guard in Washington, D.C. He found a way to do it very quickly, considering the fact that he had such an issue when it came down to the National Guard taking care of those January 6th individuals. Yeah, back during the time he continues to blame Nancy Pelosi. And of course, we all know that he pardoned every, 1,500 J6ers, or whatever as they're known as. These are individuals that were anti-law enforcement in some cases, individuals that were anti-constitution, and anti. He pardoned every last one of them. You know why? Because as long as it fits the Donald J. Trump agenda, it's all good. Just as we see with the Epstein files and things going on with Miss Maxwell denying this and denying that and saying, hey, Trump had no involvement, this person had no involvement, she's probably going to get a pardon. Okay? Why? Because it fits the Trump agenda. What's next on the plate of Trump agenda? Well, recently, within the past couple of months, well, within a month or so, Donald J. Trump, President of the United States, passed an executive order. By the way, he's ruling by executive orders, okay? Like, all these executive orders he's passing, fortunately, but, I mean, it's going to be... This episode of 5 Minutes with Mike is brought to you by Michael D. Beckford's newest book, HOMEBOYS. Everybody has a homeboy, or friends call his own. The best friend you kick it with at the family barbecue. The one you trust to bring around your lady without raising a red flag. A homeboy will play video games, smoke, and chill. A homeboy is a nigga you can ride or die, and the one you sleep with on the low. HOMEBOYS, available in ebook and paperback or wherever books are sold. Well, recently, within the past couple of months, well, within a month or so, Donald J. Trump, President of the United States, passed an executive order. By the way, he's ruling by executive orders, okay? Like, all these executive orders he's passing, fortunately, but, I mean, it's going to be a miserable 3.5 years, fortunately can be turned over by his predecessor, which, i.e., would be, hopefully, another Democratic president in office, right? So, but he's ruling by executive order like a king, because exactly what he wants to be. He wants to be a king. He wants to be... he said the other day that he knows grass better than anybody else. What a joke. But he passed an executive order recently that was very... Now, you guys, just by the way, you guys know he's not writing this stuff. Like, he's not, like, literally Trump is not sitting around like, oh, okay, I think this language need to be here, this language need to be there. But he passed an executive order the other day that pretty much is putting some pressure on cities to not only remove the sight of homeless individuals, right? Meaning people that had no choice in the matter for which they are now, i.e. homeless. And by the way, guys, you guys got to have a different objection when it comes down to homeless people. Not everybody that's homeless is on crack, not on some kind of drugs, whatever. Like, bro, like, literally right now, it's 2025. Prices are sky high. Tariffs are out of control as far as raising the costs on everything. And housing costs that's been talked about for so long is unaffordable for a lot of folks. Imagine this. If you work a job, right, and that job pays you $10 an hour, and your rent costs, let's just say $1,000, right? $1,000 a month. You got a 2-bedroom apartment, okay? $1,000, you get paid $10 an hour. To afford that apartment, you literally got to work your ASS off at $10 an hour before the tax man takes their due, right? So at $10 an hour, you got to work at least a minimum 50 hours a week. So that's, $500 a week you're going to get before taxes. After taxes, maybe for something, right? So over 4 weeks, 400 times 4, you make about $1,600 right after taxes. Yeah, you're going to pay that $1,000 for rent. You can afford it. Well, technically you can afford it, right? But the pressure, you got other things. You may have a car note to pay. That's $100 something, $200. You got groceries, gas, all these things. So most likely you got to have another job to even take care of the things that need to be taken care of. Just the basic necessities, right? Now imagine this. After the lease is up, you get a notification. Actually, normally they'll just send one out within 60 days of your lease being up. They say, your landlord says, hey, we're going to increase your rate up to where mostly market standard is in the area. So instead of you paying $1,000 a month for rent, you're going to be paying now $1,550. Whoa. Hey, that's an additional $550 that where are you going to get it from? You're already working your regular job. You're already doing DoorDash and Ubering just to try to make the other ends meet. Where in the hell are you going to get it from? So, hey, there's no family that you can consult with, in regards to that. Family's like, hey, I'm dealing with my own struggles. And so then you end up with a situation where you try to meet the you look around, but it's like, dang, I got to pay to move out. Then I got to pay 3 times the rent to move to the next place. I don't have that. I don't have down payment. So I guess I'll just try to truck along and figure out a way to make this $1,500 payment work, along with everything else I have for my cost of living. So you figure out a way to make it work temporarily, because at the end of the day, that $500 some rate increase is a 50% increase on top of what you're already paying for rent. So now you lose your job, your base job. You still working your hustles. But unfortunately, your hustles is not hustling enough for you to be able to make the next month's rent. What happens, folks? I think you all know where this story goes. You get the big fat eviction letter. Now, depending on your state, you got a X amount of days to either vacate the premises or pay the rent. So now you got the eviction letter. What do? For a lot of people, unfortunately, this is a story for hundreds of thousands of Americans. And it's gotten even worse after COVID. You get those letters, you're trying to find a hotel just to survive, and then end up the hotel game, because those rates change almost every day. There's instability with that. You end up on the street eventually. For some people, they might not necessarily end up technically on the street, like under a tent, as in some homeless, but they may end up in an RV, in their car, as a matter of fact. Usually the car, a van, a vehicle, okay? Donald Trump, Commander Trump, and his Project 2025 buddies don't like that. They don't like that you, who had no other place to go, who had nothing else no other resource, nothing else to be able to find, no other help, essentially. You found a way by being in your car, your vehicle, but now the federal government wants to punish you if you're in local cities and things of that nature. If you found sleeping in your vehicle, okay. Now you guys can read up on the executive order that was passed, but it's pretty draconian, because what they're basically saying is, hey, we give you here's all your options. Either if we found you, quote unquote, sleeping in your vehicle, whatever the case may be, within this city, whether it's an RV, a car, whatever, we're gonna give you two options. You can go to a mental health facility because we think that something must be wrong with you because you're sleeping in the vehicle, or you can go to jail. Okay. Now, I must say use caution, because at the end of the day, it's all about the enforcement by the cities. Is a cop gonna knock on your door and basically send you to jail? Depends on the day of the week. But now the biggest thing with the executive order is they now have the law, which the executive order is essentially the law of the land for the time that the president is in office, right? Like a king, because Congress didn't pass this. But cities are passing homeless ordinances and no sleep laws all over, like fast, and including entire states. So you end up in this situation where there's nowhere to go. And now when you end up in a car or vehicle, your last vestige to try to maybe get on your feet, live rent free for a while, get back, do your hustles, you're now even being charged with that. Like, what happened to land of the free, home of the brave? Yeah, I know. Most black people, we already know that's an illusion. I've never really fully felt free in America. Never. Only time I maybe felt some ambience of freedom is when I was a kid, okay? When my imagination could truly go wild. But outside of that, I always know that somebody's watching me. Somebody's always looking at me. Somebody's always judging me anytime I go into a particular public space. It's just a fact. And so I never felt that this was, quote unquote, the land of the free. But to now, where you have situations in California and other places where RVs, primarily the older RVs, I should say, that are on the sides of streets, are being swept away and taken, and individuals, like, this is the part that don't make sense. So you're trying to help people, send people to shelters, which everybody knows shelters are like poop, you know what I'm saying, when it comes down to it. And there usually aren't enough beds to even provide for the residents in the city. So let's get that part out the way. But they want you to go to a shelter or something like that. But they take your only shelter through these particular sweeps, because your RV may have been there 30 minutes longer than the quote unquote time that you can be allowed on a city street. So then now you're stuck without your belongings on a city street. I mean, what sense does that make? At the very least, the RV at least gives you some form of shelter. Now, are there some bad looking RVs out there? Of course, man. I mean, some bad, tore up looking ones. But that's not the point. The point is, with this particular executive orders by Commander Trump and the incentive to incentivize cities with additional funding if they quote unquote enforce these things, right? It's now going to make it much more harder for individuals that end up in these type of situations, especially those in the van life community. So here's the deal. I've been a part of the van life community, and I'm looking forward to getting back a part of the van life community. Do a few different ways. I'm not going to talk about in details on that because this is not a van life channel. But I've had some of the best freedom in my life doing van life, and which is when we're going to go back to it. And then not only that, I plan on also purchasing an RV sometime here in the near future because I don't want to be bound by rent. I don't want to be bound by the man, raising rent here, there, and everything like that. A lot of RVs, individuals, are good people. Some of these individuals are doing it not necessarily because of a situation where they end up homeless. It's just by choice. I mean, I've seen. I went on YouTube. You guys can look at it. I've seen some bad boys when it come down to RVs. I've seen some bad boys when it came down to some of these van life bills. I mean, $80,000 vehicles. You think that person is homeless? Come on, guys. I think the thing is, what happens with these government institutions, they cast a wide net over everyone, but everybody's not in that same situation. Just leave these individuals the F alone for the most part. Because at the end of the day, unless they asking for help and resources, they most likely don't need it from you. And so just because a person is living in a van, an older RV, it don't mean they're cooking up some drugs. It don't mean they got a mental health issue. It just means that they chose to live a true vestige of what it means to be, or at least what we say it means to be, the propaganda that's been sold to us, to be an American, to live the American dream. And I'm afraid that with Commander Trump at the helm, as he rages against democratic cities, mostly populated by black mayors, and wants to send the National Guard here, there, everywhere, and is basically militarizing everything and putting billions of dollars towards ICE and other projects, I believe that this system of authoritarianism that we're moving into is going to be a step so far that it's going to be hard to look back at the quote-unquote good old days of America in the early 2000s, in the 80s. I'm not talking about America during the time of, when it wasn't good for black people. No, that ain't the American great again I'm looking forward to. I'm looking towards the America that was not this. And so at the end of the day, we all have to be vigilant. And we all have to be mindful that what you hear on TV, what you hear from a random guy on YouTube, myself, or anybody included, is not always the correct thing. So don't just listen to me. Go do your facts, do your research, do your Googles, right? Do your own research for yourself. But at the end of the day, what is going on right now with Commander Trump and the Project 2025 initiative is alive and well, and is eating at the core of our American society. And eventually one day, you guys that all ignore the warnings will notice that there's no freedom left for you or anyone else. Thank you guys for listening to another episode of 5 Minutes with Mike. I'm your host, Michael D. Beckford. Saints, turn with me to, let me find that right quick. Turn with me to page 265 in your hymn books. We're going to sing together, Go Tell It on the Mountain. Go tell it on the mountain, over the hills and everywhere. Go tell it on the mountain, where Jesus Christ is born. The world is crying for a hymnal to sing. We're constantly on the verge to let freedom ring. We look for a new song every chapter of the week. That song may be about a boy or girl who has no food to eat. It may be about a soldier shot in the chest or police violence during a house arrest. We watch and we pray, we sing and we shout, we clap and we dance, and then we leave out. We really think that we made a difference because the same old hymn that we've always been singing.
Go tell it on the mountain, over the hills and everywhere. Go tell it on the mountain, where Jesus Christ is born.
We're born at a time, and we live in an era when no oppressed people will be satisfied to let the oppressor continue to oppress them without doing something about it. And as the oppressed awaken and become very eager to defend themselves, the oppressor himself is going to step up his activity. And step up activity on the part of both will produce an explosion that's just as certain as the rising of the sun on the eastern horizon in the morning.